Good afternoon, everybody. This is Shannon Scott, the Bard of Bonaventure, coming to you live on a beautiful day from the inside of Bonaventure Cemetery and also at the Bluff of the Wilmington River, the Intercoastal Atlantic Waterway, and just some beautiful, beautiful blue skies today, and the puffy clouds that are like kind of the spiritual zeppelins of the earthly sense. And I don't know, I always think of like maybe all the spirits in Bonaventure are now clouds. But nonetheless, we see a boat heading out to the ocean, presumably the ocean around the corner here from Bonaventure. And yeah, this is all brackish water, and we see dolphins out here all the time. But I just finished up a tour, and I just thought I would shoot a little video here at the end of the tour time. Way over there in that tree line to the left is actually another part of Bonaventure called Greenwich, which is all 1933 and later as far as burials. So if you were shopping for a plot in the modern sense, they would take you out to the Greenwich section. So yeah, Bonaventure is over 200 acres, and it's just a big, big place. But in part, I come here today because this is also historically, at least in maybe the urban lore idea, terminology, we call this Suicide Bluff. And we see the remnants of old monuments and headstones here. And people are always curious, like, are people buried here on the bluff? Well, no. In reality, when broken things from the rubble pile or from the old family plots do break, sometimes they're replacements and upgrades, and they just take what's left of those stones and they dump them down the river here, or sorry, the bluff, hoping to bolster this bluff because, yeah, we're 50 feet up here above the water, and hurricanes often shave off some of these old kind of oyster bolstered bluffs, and so they're eroding. So in part, it's about saving the road and preserving the road. But in the urban lore levels, we call this Suicide Bluff in Savannah. This is actually where 43 people have ended their lives. The first suicide was in 1846, which is really the inception hour of Bonaventure itself. There was a New Orleans minister who had been to Bonaventure on a religious mission, or to Savannah anyway, at one point, and had visited the beautiful cemetery. But I don't know much about him, except he left his wife a suicide note in New Orleans, telling his wife in final that he was traveling to Savannah's Bonaventure to commit his final act because it was a beautiful place to die. And I believe he had 8 weeks to rethink that, because that's how long the carriage ride took from New Orleans to Savannah. So, but yeah, he did drown himself here at high tide, and they buried him in Bonaventure. 40 of these 43 suicides are drownings, and 3 of them were self-inflicted gunshots. In fact, the last suicide, and I'm kind of drawing just, from the blank memory bank here, but I believe it was 3 or 4 years ago, maybe 5 now. But I was actually doing a tour here, and we all heard a gunshot, and I really just thought it was maybe a military funeral going on, because you hear that, but we didn't hear the repetition of 3 or 7 guns being shot 3 times. We only heard like 1 shot. Now, the irony at the time was there was a guy on my tour who was a forensicist for the state. And he was actually a photographer, and he was here on vacation with his wife. And at the end of the day of the closing of the cemetery, there was a car here at the bluff, and no one knew exactly why it was here. And then one of the cemetery workers looked down the bluff, and they found the man's body in the reeds in the water. And apparently, I believe his grandmother, who had died a couple years before, is buried over in the Greenwich Addition. And he was just depressed about something, but he rented a car in Atlanta, came down to Savannah, and ended his life here. And to my knowledge, that was the last life taking here at Suicide Bluff. But yeah, even though 3 were gunshot, all 43 victims, if I guess we use that term, were their bodies went into the river, but 40 were definite drownings. So yeah, it's kind of an unusual part of Bonaventure, but I think I always fall back to that note of the New Orleans minister who said that Bonaventure was a beautiful place to die. Well, I can tell you this, it's a beautiful place to tell stories and to be alive here on the bluff. But gang, that's one of the more, I guess, morbid, unusual things about Bonaventure, but it's a part of the hidden history, I suppose. And yeah, we talk all about this stuff and more every day on my tour with Bonaventure Cemetery Journeys. Remember, if you're touring with me or looking to tour one of the alternate tour times with one of my talented protege. You're looking for Bonaventure Cemetery Journeys, not tours, and you can easily find us at bonaventurecemetery.com or shannonscott.com. But we look forward to storing you soon and having you roam with us in Bonaventure. Have a great day.